Mm.
Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Baligian.
Hey, what is up? Glad you could join us. He's Mike. I'm Sean. Do you have a special guest with you, Mike, by the way? Or did your special guest already walk away?
The special guest zoomied away and almost tumbled the entire couch over with the zoomies. Someone just went to the bathroom and is very excited.
I love every second of it. Mike, the dog lover, is just, I cannot stress to people how just unbelievably glorious that is. Just a day I never, ever, ever thought would happen.
But we've got to be clear. It's Mike, the Nelly lover.
Yes. Because Lord knows you don't like my yap dogs. Let's get
I don't hate them. I don't hate them though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hate I have for dogs, and it's not aimed at yours.
So Mike, I have a confession to make to you.
Okay.
I have been had by the Patrick Laine web of despair. I can't believe I'm falling for it. He looks so good. And conversely, he's made like all of a sudden Kirby Doc looks like he has a pulse again, and Slavkowski looks like, the guy that finished last year and everything. But it is, I know how this is going to end. This has been his career so far, and people go ooh and ah and ooh and ah. I mean, I know how this is going to end, and that's why I refer to it as a web of despair. But I just had to publicly say, most importantly to my friend Mike, I've fallen for the web of despair.
Well, I can see it. I mean, he's got the jump coming back from the injury. The team seems to have a little bit of jump. They've got a pulse, as you say. But at least you've already admitted, we've seen this. We've seen this in every stop that he makes, that it comes in bunches, right? And he's going to get 20 real quick. We know this. And then he's going to shut it down. And it's not going to happen. And then maybe when it's totally over, he'll go on a 15. He goes in spurts like that.
Yep, no doubt about it. That's the way it goes. Wings 1 and 2. Since we last talked, they ended the 5-game losing streak. It wasn't a very awe-inspiring victory over the Buffalo Sabres, but give them credit for coming back, and obviously Sebastian being the goaltender of record and then promptly being sent back to Grand Rapids, which Mike, honest to goodness, for the life of me, I don't understand it at this point in time. I just don't. I don't get it. If you want to try to explain it, it's one of those I get it, but I don't get it type of scenarios. Maybe we'll just start there. I get what they're doing, okay, but I don't get what they're doing. Does that make sense?
It has to make sense, because I don't know. I kind of troll the internet after Wings games to get the pulse of the fan. And Sean, I haven't found one person that can explain it. And I don't know if I can even find one person that can explain Sebastian Costa's career. That he's never got that chance, and the Wings have never had that goalie that would keep everybody out. So I can't, if I can find someone that could answer the long term of what's going on with his career, maybe it'll answer what they just did, that they don't give him the start in Ottawa, which I actually thought they would give to Husso, because that's a winnable game. They think that's going to be a winnable game. But I did think that he would at least get the start coming back against the Avalanche, a team that has given up more goals than anybody in the NHL. A chance to give him, hey, here you go. Here's your shot. Here's your moment. And he has to, I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
No, I think the timing of it right now is, well, I think whether the powers that be acknowledge this or not, I think this team needs a little bit of a pick-me-up across the board. I mean, really, across the board. More on that in a second. I just think there's too much going on. And, Mike, I'm going to say it again. I think I'm not going to go as far as to say this reminds me of like late-stage Blashill, where they were a chore to watch. but more often than not, they are a chore to watch. I'm sorry. They are. They're not exciting. This isn't the team that, got on a little bit of a tear late last year and almost punched themselves into the playoff. It really is kind of a chore watching this team.
So if you remember when we first started this, I was kind of getting into it. I was very excited. They had some pep. They were playing some games. They were feisty, that word that I like to use. And then it went away for a little bit and they fell out of the playoffs. And then we had that exciting rush at the end. And I think that's where we're at with them, is that lull of, it's not only a chore, Sean. You have to think that with what they did, the Wings and FanDuel and Verizon, and that logging in just to watch them is a tough, but like why am I going to take that time to log in? Because I have to stream it now. Log in and stream it for Detroit Buffalo. Are you serious?
Right.
Is there anything appealing to it?
No, I absolutely, I get it.
Tomorrow night, Wings Flyers. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like that. That's exactly what you're saying, and I 100% understand it. And it's a shame because I would be watching every game before.
By the way, a couple comments, and Alan in particular picking up on what we're talking about. Our buddy Tom said, "Good evening, hockey fans." Of course, Tom in London, Ontario, where the London Knights are doing London night things, off to another tremendous start. I think at last check, somebody can fact check me. I think they're atop the league standings yet again. Excuse me. I told Mike I'm gonna have to hit mute for a second. You're gonna have to excuse me. All right.
Here it comes. Oh yes, the sneezing.
I had an attack before the show started, like right before the show started. So you're gonna have to excuse me. Alan, you're picking up on what I'm saying as well. I understand that Sebastian wasn't part of the plan for the season, but I would have liked to see him get some more run, especially when our captain Dylan Larkin said he provided a spark to the team. Bam. I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know when you joined the show. I said that to Mike like 3 minutes ago. Like literally, this team needs a spark right now. And I know that a lot of people out there think that the spark may be provided by letting the coach go, which I'm still convinced is going to happen sooner rather than later. I really am. But in the meantime, I think they need a little bit of a spark, and having a young goaltender back there and going through the ups and downs that young goaltenders are apt to do. I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a spark. I really do. And I get it. Be patient. This is how we got to bring guys up. And, to the people out there like me, I've said this for a while. I think he's the guy before the guy. That's just one man's personal opinion. I think it'll be Kosa, as Ben Bishop came before Vasilevsky. I think it'll be Kosa before Trey Augustine. That's, again, just one man's opinion. But, Mike, there isn't a lot right now. And as you said, a Thursday night. Now, don't get me wrong, guys like you and I and most people that are watching this show right now would agree. I'll be watching hockey anyway, right?
Yes.
But what's there to get excited about other than, the Wings are on, right?
Yes. And that, that gets into, if there's time at the end, I have a big thing to ask you about just the NHL overall.
Okay.
But you're 100% right. But back to the Kosa thing, that I know he's not a part of the plan for the season. What is the plan? And me and you have talked about the Ben Bishop to the Vasilevsky, but the more we have times like this where he gets just extra time because Husso couldn't save the puck. He got in Buffalo. Other than, where are we going? When is that going to happen? How many years are we going to push this down the road? And if he did add that spark, because there's not much going on. You even look, watching that game against Buffalo, there was a moment where Mo Seider turned into Mo Seider. Mm-hmm. And he got physical. It's almost like they took the restraints off of him and they let him go. And here we go. Now you got Seider playing physical. You got Edvinsson playing like really your number one. I think he's on 13 points plus 7. But here's the thing, that guy, that guy's going to need a contract real soon too. But that's another story for another day. But what's it going to take to raise the pulse of this team? I don't know.
No, that's exactly it. Another thing, and I know you were very critical when they signed him. What was it, about a year ago at this time, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Patrick Kane is a shell of his former self. He hasn't had a point in a month.
Yes.
Like almost exact. I think it's November 13th. I can fact check myself. I think his last point is November 13th. He had a goal and an assist in that particular game.
Since the 13th.
He has put up goose eggs. Now, I want to be very, very careful when I say this, okay? I'm not at, I almost said Joe Louis Arena. I'm not at Little Caesars Arena watching every shift of his. This isn't like I'm sitting there in the catbird seat. It's easy for me to sit at home right now and say, what's going on? Because Patrick Kane is a guy. We know what they brought him in for. We know what they gave him the contract for. Forget the, he and DeBrincat are both leading the forwards at a -6. So I'm not going to sit there and say that I've watched his shifts and I've studied his shifts. However, it should be very, 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 very alarming to everybody when Patrick Kane, especially with everything that he's been through and his age, has put up goose eggs for the span of a month.
Yeah, we talked about it at the end of last year, Sean, that he came in, he got that crescendo, he went on the way up, he had a great start to it, he was putting up points. Towards the end of the year, we lost him a little bit. And maybe it was the season, maybe it was the team. We questioned whether he was going to be back. That's when we really started to question the coaching, whether they're going to make a change and he was going to come back. A shell of himself is absolutely right. I mean, I'm going to say I don't study the game. I'm not watching every shift that he takes. But when he first came to us, we noticed him all the time. You don't notice him, Sean. You do notice him. And this is what happens as we get older and we're still really skilled because you notice him on the power play.
Mm-hmm.
When he's got a little bit of time, he's got a little bit of space. Here's my fear. And you know this. From what I suffer, I have the same hip as him, right? The difference between me and him is he is a professional athlete and I'm a bum. Right. And my hip is totally shot. I go in every couple months and I have to get a pain injection for it. My wondering is he came back, he felt good. Is it a little bit worse? And that's where we saw his decline. And now we're seeing this is who he is right now. This is how much he can. His feet aren't the same.
No,
it's just not moving. That's my fear. Is it is a degenerative hip thing that I know too well. And even with injections, you're not the same. And he's 36 and father time is undefeated. We say it all the time.
All the time. No. And I want to be very, very careful. And you reiterated it as well. Look, I don't fancy myself a scout. Okay. But I've talked to more scouts than any of you have. You're going to have to trust me when I say that, okay? That was part of my gig. And there are things that you look for and look out for, okay? So I can't see those things when I'm watching a game on television. It's one thing to be able to go to a game and watch Panarin, for example. Yep. I watched him twice last year, and I was like, roof.
Yeah,
dog, don't want him. Thank you anyways. He's going to hurt you come playoff time. So it's not like, and I'm glad that you put it that way. It's that you're not noticing Patrick Kane.
Yeah,
it's not just the lack of productivity. It's that you're not noticing Patrick Kane, and that should be frightening to everybody. David said Tarasenko's in the same boat. David, I hate to say it, and we both said this last year. The people that thought that Tarasenko was still Tarasenko, that guy went away 5 years ago. Like he just did. He went away. I loved Florida signing him because he went to a place where there were no expectations and he could be a big body and he could add to their depth and the physical presence that they bring. And both Mike and I, and I'm not saying you're one of them, Dave, by the way, but Mike, we both cautioned people when the Wings signed him in the summer. We're like, don't do it. Don't do it. This isn't a guy that even a couple years ago. He's not that guy. Forget about the heyday with the Blues. He's not that guy anymore, you know?
No, he's not. It's funny. I'm gonna veer off here because every time I hear Tarasenko's name, you know me in gambling, Sean. It takes me back to I was in Vegas for Tarasenko's first game, and you know I could be messing this up, but I swear Tarasenko's first game was against the Wings. It was the first game after the lockout. I was in Vegas. And I sat with a Blues fan, and of course, I took the over. That I got there on that one, but I had the Wings. And this guy was telling me about this Tarasenko that's coming up, and he scored 3 goals. But that's not who this guy is anymore.
No,
he's not. He's not that dynamic. On the third line of a team like Florida, he was good. On a third line on a team like Detroit, he's nothing. He's adding nothing to what we have here. And it's actually watching that Buffalo game that I think you said you talked to McCarty, and he was saying how there was a lot of passengers. There's a lot of passengers in the Buffalo game. Our bottom 6 were all minus players, and you can't have that. Even with scoring goals, they were minus players. That's bad.
Yeah. Austin said Kane has always been a minus player, but if he can't produce offensively,
yeah.
Daniel Sprong with less production at 17 minutes a night. Listen, I agree with you. It's you add it all up though. When here's this guy that we know exactly why he's here, who's not producing, and he's a -6, and more often than not, you don't even see him out there. That's an issue.
Yeah.
That's and again, is this a costly issue? Is this hamstringing the Red Wings for the foreseeable? Oh, gasp, what will we do? No, it's not anything like that. But the questions about Father Time have to be talked about. You know, I mean, honestly, is this the beginning of the end for one of the greatest American players ever? I don't care what people think about Patrick Kane. To me, it's inconsequential. He really is one of the greatest American players ever, Mike.
Yeah, 100%. You can't have USA hockey and talk about USA hockey and not talk about Patrick Kane. And he's right up there with your Madanos. Let's put Chelly in there. If you're going to talk U.S. hockey, Kachuk, Phil Housley, boom. One of the most underrated defensemen ever.
Totally underrated.
We Leach. I mean, the Kane is right there. He is going to be on your top 5 list, right? Yeah. And it's guys, he's been doing it for a long time. There's nothing wrong with saying what we're seeing, but we are seeing it. And the reason I think we're bringing it up, Sean, is we leaned on him as that guy. He was that skilled guy that could get with the brink we had someone mention up here. I think it was Ray talking about the Rasmussen, Larkin, Raymond line. And then what we would talk about was, okay, now we got DeBrincat can play with Kane, and we signed one more top 6 guy. We're not talking about that anymore. Kane's not hanging with those top 6 anymore. And that's why we're bringing it up. It's not a slight on this guy. We still have much respect for him, but we're not seeing it.
I got a lot of comments to get to. Let me tell you about Lindsay Broadwell first. When it's time to get yourself a house, you're buying, you're selling, oftentimes both, you need the right agent. Who do we recommend? That young lady right there, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you will ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business. So when it's time for you to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, even first-time buyer, it doesn't matter. Just make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Austin, Tarasenko reminds me of when the Lions signed Larry Foote. I won't go as far as the Rudy with an I Johnson. That was the one. I remember people losing their shit when the Lions signed Rudy Johnson. And I was like, he died 2 years ago. Like he died. He legitimately, he died 2 years ago. That didn't end up real well. Kane injury, they said guys don't come back from that and be your old self. You know, the strange thing about that is he looked like himself for a little while there. Remember when he got a little bit of a heater and then he, as we talked about at the end of last season, Mike, and you reiterated it, he looked like a guy that just ran out of gas. Like he just didn't fill the tank, and he ran out of gas. What's Veleno done? I've seen nothing. David, I'm so glad you brought that up because Mike, I don't know if you and I have talked about this even in private. I don't get the Veleno fixation and fascination. I don't. I don't get it. Am I missing something? Are you seeing something out there? I don't get it. I'm not being funny. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the question is and what we're talking about. He's a fourth line center kind of guy. I mean, he's got to wake up. He's got to be better. But I know where the picks are and where he came from and all this. He's a fourth line guy. It's all he is. Again, he fits in with what we have at the bottom end. If we're expecting something more out of him, then you're mistaken. It's not. And again, that's not another slight on a guy. You fit in where you fit in. You listen. If you remember when we interviewed,
like this franchise overrates its own talent. It's really weird. It's almost like that happens.
If you remember when we spoke, you might not remember. You do have the memory, but we spoke with Darren McCarty, and I asked him when did he know he was going to be a fourth liner. This was what OHL Player of the Year, 50 goal scorer. All this stuff coming out, the Wings take him. And he said he knew early on, like he knew what he had to do if he was going to play in the NHL, right? That's what a lot of this is. People see the name and maybe the stats behind it. And then, Sean, yes, they overrate him by that. But these guys have to learn. They're going to be PK guys. They're going to be fourth line guys. And that's where I see Veleno. That's who he is. I never saw him as anything else. He was going to come in. He was another one of these bottom six guys that we just have way too many of.
Yeah. Matthews will be the number one USA born when all is said and done. I wouldn't argue with that trajectory right now. Mike, I don't think you would either. I wouldn't.
No, gosh, no.
I wouldn't argue with that trajectory. No way, no. Ray. I wouldn't argue with that. All right, since he brought it up, pick one. Go ahead. And I'm going to ask you, Mike, and I'm going to ask everybody else out there. The best American player ever is
Brian Leach. I'm going to go Brian Leach.
You guys are all going to call me a slapdick, and I don't care. Chris Chelios.
No, with the guys that we can put out there, I mean, you could say Madonna. You could put Housley. There's guys out there that you could put out there.
Joey Mullen was
Joey Mullen. He scored goals. He scored goals.
Yep.
I mean, he was a warrior. I mean, these guys are great. Mike Richter. But you can't argue any of them. Chelly's, it's a great one. I mean, we had a lot of great players that came through. If I can, Sean, our friend Gordy Wilson.
Hi, Gordy.
Made the comment, we're stuck with the players. It's time to upgrade with the coach. I think, who do we want? Who do we think is going to come in here with this talent? I've been saying this since we started this year with the show is I don't think that this is a coaching problem. This isn't a design as far as a coaching problem. This is a production problem. This is a lack of talent. No one's going to come in here and do anything with the roster that we have.
You know, in Gordy, I don't know if you were with us earlier. We talked about that. I'm convinced it's going to happen. I am. I'm convinced it's going to happen sooner rather than later as well. But I think my issue right now in the interim, if you're not going to do that, why don't you keep Sebastian up here? This team needs a spark. They do. I mean, this team needs a spark. And if your captain comes out and says, this is a guy that's providing a spark, I for the life of me, I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. I don't get it. But listen, I'm convinced that Coach Lalonde's a dead man walking. I'm convinced he is. I'm convinced he is.
You have to. Someone's got to take the fall, right? And you can't. These contracts are guaranteed. Gordy's right. We can't get rid of players. You can't. No one's going to take this. We're not making a trade. We're not coming in. We don't have enough cap. We're not developing our own players. There's a bigger problem than that. But somebody's got to fall. The only thing that I hesitate on with Lalonde, and I agree with you, he's a dead man walking, is when when Iserman came in, one of the first questions they asked him was about Blashill. And his comment was very professional and very simple and very short. He's not going to damage this team. He's not going to hurt this team by being here. And I kind of have that feel with Lalone. This team's not going anywhere. This team's at he's not hurting the team or anything by being here. He's going to ride the contract out because we know.
A bridge. He's a bridge.
We know it, unless they're actually going to get in there and evaluate the talent that's in there, and that's a total overhaul, Sean. It's a scary sight to see. I really think it's scary. I want to think this team, as I keep using that word, I kept yelling it at you when we were calling the CC game, when we were watching them play Calgary, was feisty. They're going to be there's going to be games. They're going to be feisty and they're going to get people excited, but it's Sean, it's scary.
It's a chore. It is. I'm sorry. It is. Even the phenomenal comeback again against the Sabres and watching Mo Seider look like the Mo Seider that we've expected, to go like this the last couple of years. It's those moments have been few and far between. Let me tell you all about catering. All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer, graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Rick and the gang will take care of you. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give them a call, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. You know what's funny? When we were talking about American players, and I have to share this with you because I think you knew this guy kind of sort of like I did as well. And Gordy Wilson, one of our buddies from Livonia, probably did. Neil Carnes, the late Neil Carnes name came up in a conversation yesterday. Mm-hmm. And for people out there that don't know who Neil Carnes is, he's a local guy. He was drafted by the Habs. He went and played in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League and was just a star in the making. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And don't take my word for it. Patrice Brisebois, longtime member of the Montreal Canadiens, Colorado Avalanche, told me they played together there last year. I think they won the Memorial Cup that year, if my memory serves me correct. He told me point blank that when I told him that, I had friends and we all knew who Neil was and everything. He said that guy would have won a Norris Trophy in the National Hockey League. Those were his words, man. That's incredible. But unfortunately, was he 19 years old when he passed away? Just a tragic accident.
Yep.
But
yep.
Phenomenal player, especially the long-term fans of Junior out there. Maybe you remember that name.
I mean, anyone or any local play. It's one of those guys when you play local hockey, they have those guys of lore. He's one of them. Everybody knew him. I don't know if you. Yes, and I don't know if you knew this, all the conversations that we had. My brother played with his brother. I want to say it was Alan Carnes.
I did. And
so I kind of grew up in the rink with Neil, like rink rats. Like he would get off the ice with his Michigan Dynamo and AAA practices, and me and him would run around the rink as our brothers then would go. And watching him, for the life of me, I'm not going to remember who it was. It just told me to watch him. Just watch him. Never stopped. Always on the puck. Always knew where the puck. That special kind of player. But you're absolutely anybody around knows him.
There were a group of kids in our area that were just better than everybody else. I mean, and that happens everywhere. But they were better than everybody else. And it was funny, Mike. I can tell you the reason this came up is our buddy, shout out Mark Beaufait, former Northern Michigan, San Jose Shark, U.S. Olympian, sent me this picture of their team. You should have seen this team, Mike. It was I almost swore. It was a freaking wagon. Like the 71 guys, multiple NHLers. It was an absolute wagon. And there they are with their little baby faces. Holy crap, look at this team.
What team was it?
You know what? I could look it up. I forget which one it was, but it was Tamer and Mulcahy was on that team. And I mean, just an absolute wagon, kids that went E1 and multiple guys that made it to the National Hockey League. It was really unbelievable.
Wow.
My Leafs would take Kane off your hands for a pick and give him fourth line ice time and be on the second power play. Why don't you call Steve, see if he'd be interested in something like that? I think he what is our buddy the coach saying? Oh, Leach. Okay, he said Leach. Gordy said hard to argue with Chelly. Austin said, I agree with Chelios for longevity and doing it in different eras. My favorite was Ryan Callahan, underrated, to the point that I bought his jersey. I just love the way he played, blocking shots, et cetera, et cetera. Alan, if we're going to lose, why not lose with the kids? We can at least see what we have. Gordy said, I was late. I don't feel tardy. There are coaches out there that I believe are an upgrade. Here's the biggest question that I have, though, and somebody mentioned Torts. When Torts eventually gets fired, because it's going to happen. I know I should collect a check every time I say this. Anybody that tells you they know what Steve Yzerman's going to do is lying. I'm telling you that right now. He doesn't let any of his cards show. So all we are left to do is look at his track record and the way he brought up goaltenders. And so far, his time with Detroit is kind of the same thing that he did at Tampa. And his track record of hiring coaches, is to get the first-time guy, whether it be the hot name with Guy Boucher when he first got to Tampa, and then taking a chance on some guy named John Cooper. How did that work out? And then obviously bringing in Coach Lalonde. If he was going to bring in a guy, and I don't know this for sure, all I can do is base this on what his track record is. Might he get a guy that doesn't have his first job yet? And if that's the case, would he, dare I say, wait until the end of the season? Because it's not like you're going to go pluck an assistant off somebody else's bench during the season, right? It's not like you're going to say to a guy, I don't know, coaching a D1 or whatever the case may be. We're going to pluck you, come coach us. Now, can things like that happen? Of course they can. But that's if they ride this out with him till the end of the year, can you imagine that? I don't want to imagine that. I really don't want to imagine that.
So if we take this back, though, to when Steve was, we had these conversations about Blashill forever. And he just seemed to stick around and stick around and stick around. I not only can see this lasting the year,
Shout
Sean.
out Jeff, my buddy. What's up, Jeff?
Yeah. I can not only see this lasting to the year, I can see this in a 1-year extension, and extensions happening because, again, there is nobody that you're going to bring. Because if you're bringing someone in, we're not bringing in Sean Baligian to bridge again. We're bringing in the guy that we think that, these next moves are it, right? We're bringing in that guy. I'm just going to use the name Quenneville. We're going to bring in this guy that's going to take us over the top because we're nowhere near that.
No,
we're nowhere near that. Like there's a fun game. I all the podcasts I listen to, and they talk about, I'm just going to put this in football terms, Sean. They talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and looking at this, and they say, if you had Mike Tomlin coaching the Cincinnati Bengals right now and not Zach Taylor, where would the Bengals be right now? And without a doubt, they're a playoff team. They're winning that division. They've got out. That's not what we're doing here at the Wings. I'm just telling you, you can put anybody you want behind the bench. Name them. Pay them whatever you want. You're not making the playoffs with this roster.
By the way, Mike, in the conversation for two, it was the Blades minor bantam team.
The Blades, okay, the Michigan Blades.
Yeah, yep. I'll have to send you this. This is insane.
I'm
laughing. It's just look at the names on this freaking roster. Those kids were so good. It wasn't fair.
So if you go, the Michigan Blades, if you go, and I could be getting this wrong, I'll ask our friend, but if you go the year younger, because those guys I think were a year older, would be Joe Ament, Doug Waite, Brian Smolinski. Do you think that program had some names?
Okay. Was that all right?
Are those guys all right?
Yeah. Was that all right? Gordy Carnes was dominant, a man amongst boys. Second line was Beaufait, Cummins, and Tamer. it's like, that's the funniest thing about it here. Look at, I want to, gosh, he's going to get so pissed at me for quoting him. I got a 7D1 plus Carnes, and both goes, believe it or not, I was a power winger. It's just, come on. And, he was the most modest guy. He was such a stinking stud. It was absurd,
That's funny.
Could Jack Hughes make the top 5 of all time when he's done? Quinn could.
Mm-hmm.
Not that some of us didn't say it in his draft year.
Stop.
I did. You can.
I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just saying, but don't. Let's. We can't reminisce.
I know both those guys. Gosh, like Brady Kachuk and Quinn Hughes. I'm going. You guys, you like. I'm serious. Okay, I have seen, especially doing the OHL for like 20 years. I saw incredible skaters. Quinn Hughes was just at a different place. He really was. It just the effortless way that he did everything. Mike, it looked like half the time at that level in the USHL, it looked like he was gliding. Like honest to goodness, it was just so effortless and just blowing by everybody, man. It was insane. I love that kid's game. I'm sorry. I just do.
It's hard not to.
I think I heard Steve say Kosa reminds him of a young Vasilevsky. Those are huge, huge comments, but I'm going to stick to this, okay? I think that Trey Augustine's the goaltender of the future. I'm going to stick with it. I truly believe that Trey Augustine, that Kosa will be the gap. He'll play the role of Bishop, and Augustine will be the role of Vasilevsky. We'll see.
But by saying that, as we said earlier, that kicks that can pretty far down the road, and I hope the fans out there are ready for that, because I mean, roster wise, we're nowhere there, and if we're talking our bridge goalie, they still won't give a chance, and the guy that we think is going to be the goalie has probably got another year at Michigan State, and then you're talking 3 to 4 years for him to develop. We're down the road.
Another Bruins fan in there, GW, is a Bruins fan, so is Mike Carpenter. I think they need 3 huge pieces: a top center, a number 2 D-man, and a goalie. I would go 3 for 3, and I'd also throw a couple more bodies on the defense corps too. But those 3 first and foremost, absolutely. I would say that. Mike, before we get to some of the stuff that you wanted to throw at me, Alan said, I agree with Mike. This isn't a coaching problem. This roster is full of a lot of dead bodies. Larkin, Raymond, Sider, Edvinson are just dragging along. Lalonde isn't perfect. He definitely has issues, but he's just the scapegoat, in my opinion. I'm going to say this again, and I've said this all year. It's not much like you can't blame Jeff Blashill for what that roster was, especially go back and look at that roster. I'm not saying that you can sit here and blame Coach Lalonde for that, but I'm also going to add he has to find a way to light a spark. And I'm sorry, maybe I'm reading too much into it. I think their penalty kill being as bad as it is, I think that's a coaching thing.
100%.
I think that's
what 100%. No matter what you have in front of you, Sean, if you're going to coach, you have to lead that team. And I think I said it a couple shows ago. The best job I've seen, and obviously because it was a Detroit thing, with a roster like this was what Babcock did in one of his last couple of years. The year we took Chicago when they won the Cup, I believe, to 7 games in the first round. That roster was just about as bad as the one that we've got going right now. And he got them going. Whether we agree with his tactics, he'll never be back in the NHL. We know that because of his tactics. But he got those guys to play to enough of a level, Sean. All those guys at some point will go back and thank Babcock because he got them a whole lot of money in contracts.
100%. But that'll never happen. You know that.
No, I know that. I know that.
Never, ever going to happen. Let me tell you about our friends at Wealth Advantage. If you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than those two guys. The Wealth Advantage, located in historic downtown Northville, owned by the above aforementioned those two guys. That's Mike Husak and Jeff Husak, with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help navigate you through the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. And they work with clients throughout all stages of life. They have clients in 20 different states. Look, they take care of me and my family. They'll take care of you and yours as well. The investment world is a complex one, but if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it might be time to work with the experts. Reach out to my buddies at the Wealth Advantage Group. That's 248-773-8574, or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. The Wings are turning into the Lions of old. Look at who they went before and after the Wings pick since he got there. I love Kosa, but I hope they give him more chances. I don't know about Kosa. I'm going to tell you point blank. I don't know about Kosa.
Yep.
How's that?
Who does? No one does.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, no one knows about Kosa. That is the mystery. And it's one of those things that I'm going to beg you on air to talk to me off the air, that you've got to get to someone in the know, and you know these guys, and try to get the skinny on it. I mean, I don't want, but why hasn't it been? And what hopefully it's a development thing. It just has to, he has to develop, and this is how long it takes goalies. But it's one that everybody that watches the Red Wings has been questioning for since he's been here.
Can I help a little bit? I'm gonna help a little bit, and I want to make this crystal clear that these are my words, not somebody else's. Okay, just in case anybody thinks that I'm speaking out of turn or sharing whispers, I'll tell you when I'm sharing whispers. When I say that I don't know what Kosa is, this is what I mean by that. I've watched Trey Augustine with my own two eyes look flat out dominant in the NC2A. I've watched Trey Augustine with my own two eyes look dominant on the international stage. I've heard about Sebastian Kosa's dominance, okay? Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of it. I wish I would have seen him in somebody that I trust. Mike, you know this. I did some stuff for the Walleyes a few years back. I filled in, and I keep in contact with some people down there, and they said he was good, but that was what I heard from people down there. He was good, but, and I think you guys all know what he was good, but means. In my mind, do you know what that means? That means late term Detroit Red Wing Cujo. He was good, but you know what I'm saying? That soft serve goal that you can't give up a goal there or anything. So I think for me, Mike, and especially like you can even pull up his stats. There's nothing that pops at you. Like there's nothing that makes you go, ooh, you know what I mean? I maybe I'm reading too much into it. I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it. I really do.
So what I think this means is we've got to get some eyes on him, Sean. And that means a Friday night trip out to Grand Rapids.
Okay.
Where I've done many Griffins games on Friday nights. It used to be, I don't know what it is now. It used to be $1 beers, $1 hot dogs. Pretty so cool. I know we can destroy some stuff there. I know a great restaurant. I always mess up the name. I think it's called the Butcher's Block there. I got an unbelievable meal there. We can top the night off with a nice steak and some bourbon. And I think we got to get some eyes on him for the show's sake, Sean, for the show's sake.
And I think, if you look at his numbers right now down in Grand Rapids, they're good numbers. I mean, when you have a 2.21 and a 9.25, it's nice to see this right now. But if we're being honest, the last few years, you haven't seen a lot of that out of him. There haven't been a lot of those wow moments. You know what I mean? As Kirk said, goaltending is always a coin toss. You're right. Detroit fans are crazy. Lions are winning and fans don't know how to handle it, and vice versa with the Wings. They won 25 years in a row and now struggling. Sports fan have a win now or fire motto. I think when you're the Detroit Red Wings and you've been a bad watch more often than not for a decade, fans are in their right.
Yes.
Just one man's opinion. And they've been a bad watch. Mike, it's been a decade. They've been a bad watch for a decade.
Yeah. And we dig and we have to look hard to find something that's not a tough watch. It is. We tend to make stuff up, right? The word feisty. Oh my gosh, they're feisty. They're gonna be in games. Feisty. They're gonna think about where we were and where we are now when that's what we're saying. Like, they're gonna give that team a battle. They're gonna give Toronto a tough time. But it's been too long, so people are getting really frustrated.
I know you wanted to throw a few things at me before we get out of here, so go ahead and throw a few things at me.
Well, we've done a lot of wing stuff, so I'm gonna skip past that, and this is something I wanted to ask you last show. We got a little bit long here. You use a term when we talk about high school hockey with the usual suspects.
Mm-hmm.
Is the NHL in trouble because of the usual suspects? We're going on many years, and this year looks exactly like last year, and it doesn't look like it's getting better. And we've got Philadelphia and the Rangers just on the outside. I don't know how long that's going to, but Sean, it's repeat. It's the same stuff. It's a hard watch, and I'll even add on to, usually I would not be as down on the NHL because I would have the NHL package, but they made this ESPN Plus thing so affordable and out there. The streaming makes it very hard to watch and skip between games. Is the NHL in trouble with the lack of parity and where it's at and how top heavy it is?
Yes. And Mike, consider the source. I'm the guy that's been saying for 2 years, here it comes. You're going to see the great flip, in particular, of the Atlantic Division. And you know what? You look at the standings right now, and the great flip hasn't happened. Not even close. Not even. Just in case people aren't aware of this, do you know who the 4 worst teams are in order in the East? Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo, and Montreal. They're your 4 worst teams. They're your 4 worst teams. So the great flip that a lot of people thought was going to happen hasn't happened. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't like a lot of the parts. Like, I'm going to say, Mike, I like a lot of what Montreal has. There's a lot missing. I still, for the life of me, there's something in the water in Buffalo. It reminds me of all those years in Edmonton. There's something wrong. There's bad plumbing. There's diphtheria going through the building. There's something is wrong, because to have all that talent that they've accumulated over the last decade and not be able to put together some sort of playoff run, it boggles the imagination. It really does. It boggles the imagination.
And I think we can say the same thing for Ottawa. And we like those pieces. We like what they have. I mean, I can only imagine if they end up making this Tkachuk trade, which is just rumored all over the place. It'll be a disaster for Ottawa.
How could you do that?
I don't know. But would that not be Ottawa?
Could you do that? Yes, it would be Ottawa.
That would be Ottawa. And I mean, I'm right behind you on, if we go back and we pull up the first show we did. I think one of the first shows we did was surrounding around Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo, and Montreal, and who's got the farm system, who's got that pathway, who's going to do it, which one is going to, because these guys are going to be taking over for an aging Boston team, an aging Tampa team, these teams that are getting long in the tooth, and a Toronto team that can't seem to get there. and it's just not happening. And the thing that saddens me, and I had it marked down, is the NHL is better when Chicago, Montreal, and Detroit are good.
Sure.
And it's been too long.
Right.
It's been too long. And it's something about it. No matter who you're a fan of, there's something about it when you're saying, I'm a Devils fan. When I can turn on the Devils Chicago game, the Devils Wings, it's a better league when you're talking about that. And I just keep seeing it, and the NHL is stale, and I don't know how or what the change, or if there even need something's got to give. Like this is bad.
Here's the thing. I think we were right. I remember at the beginning of the year, Mike, I hope you remember I used this line. Tampa and Boston have begun their initial descent. You're watching it in real time, okay? I'm not saying that they're done yet, and I'm not saying they can't wring one last magical run out of it, but I think they've both begun their initial descent, okay? But by this time, and by no stretch did I think the Habs in particular were going to make the playoff this year, but you thought that teams would go like this. You thought that Ottawa would go like this. You thought that Buffalo would go like this. You thought that Detroit would go like that. And it's just not happening. Eric, I still have that old beanie I got from the Montreal Forum in 1985, by the way. I mean, it is hanging on by a thread, and that's why I can't pull it off. But yes, I still have that old beanie. So, Mike, I agree with you. Here's the thing. While the initial descent has happened, these guys are still on the runway. Nobody's going like this at the same time. Nobody's even taken off yet. It's like there's like a delay at the gate or something like that, because I don't think it's any coincidence that those four teams in the East are all those four up-and-coming teams from the Atlantic Division. I don't think it's any coincidence.
No, and if we can, I mean, we have to give props for props are due, and we're talking about the descent of certainty, but something in the water, you said in Buffalo. There's also something in the water in Tampa Bay.
No question.
That they are like a fine wine. Vasilevsky's having one of his best years. I mean, Cooch is one of my favorite players to watch. You know, I had a ton of money, and I still don't know how he didn't win the MVP last year. I don't know. I mean, the only thing that could – what the NHL needs this season, Sean, to really to save it, because I'm telling you, it's getting stale. And this is coming from me, and I'm going to be watching hockey. Ovi's got to come back, and he's got to come back with a vengeance and give this. We're talking about the Wings need that spark. The NHL needs that spark. I tell you what, in the beginning of the year when he was scoring goals, we were talking about it.
It was fun.
It was fun. He was that spark. He's got
fat guys going out and doing things and like totally denying the odds. Fat wins.
I love Fat.
Fat was winning. Let's be honest. Fat
was winning. Fat, whether they were empty net goals or power play goals, Fat was winning. Winning. I love it. We need that. Todd, can you get a picture of Fat Ovi for the opening? I mean, we need Fat Ovi.
Can you find like the picture of him at the beach this summer was
unbelievable.
We were going, okay, that's doctored, right? Yeah, I hope all of you saw it. If you didn't see it, Todd will find it for you. Ray, will the Four Nations tournament help? Absolutely. I can't wait. I know, Mike, I can speak for you. I can't wait. Yeah. Russia should be there. It's disappointing that Russia isn't there. Sorry. I'm going to keep saying that, but yeah, we'll wait and see. All right, Todd, you know what? While you're looking for Fat Ovi, I can tell you about Legacy Partners. Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you. And oh, by the way, yes, save you some money. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. What are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today at 586-209-4106 or visit legacypartners.ins.com to get started with your new quotes. A couple people talked about the NHL lottery. It's a joke. Get rid of it. We all know that, right? I mean, come on, stop it. Todd, were you able to find Fat Ovi? Oh, he's finding Fat Ovi right now. That was great. Eric, maybe we'll touch on the Soto thing tomorrow. I know we touched on it a little bit yesterday as well. Mike was terrified that they were going to sign Justin Verlander, by the way. But Mike, it's Michigan High School Hockey Day in the state of Michigan. You and I are going to be out at lovely Eddie Edgar Arena all day on Saturday. That's a great way to end this show. KLAA-MIHL Showcase, the Adam Mitchell Memorial, and we're even broadcasting the Trenton Stevenson game. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Trenton Stevenson, always a battle, always a good game.
I love Fat Ovi.
I am telling you, Sean.
Fat Ovi.
Sean, minus the gold chain, that's exactly what I looked like before I lost my weight.
I love Fat Ovi so much. That is a professional athlete, and he soon very well may be the all-time leading goal scorer in the National Hockey League.
Look at him on that wonderful Russian beach.
Dude, look at that blower. Look at that blower.
I think he could fit a whole hockey stick in that belly button.
You know when you got those insies and you have to go in and dig some of that dirt or whatever gets in there?
Oh, you're talking Carl Gust now. Now you're giving me Carl Gust.
2007. He's French Russian now. All right. On that note, listen, you guys take care. We'll see you out at Eddie Edgar Arena on Saturday. If you can't be out there, make sure you check us out. I'll be on the call. Mike is doing the analyst stuff. Todd, thank you. God bless you guys. See you. Bye-bye.
What the Puck with Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Always Pushing Forward by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.